Welcome back to the BTG SpoiIers channel. Today we will dive deep into the electrifying twists awaiting fans on Thursday, October 23rd, in Beyond the Gates. As the sun rises over the shadowy underbelly of the show's fictional city, Vanessa McBride's bold ambitions take center stage, promising a pivotal moment in her turbulent romance with Joey Armstrong. In the aftermath of Tuesday's intense confrontation on October 21st, where Vanessa boldly declared her desire to stand as Joey's true partner in his sprawling criminal empire, whispers from the set indicate that Joey is finally ready to deliver his verdict. This high-stakes response could either catapult Vanessa into a world of unchecked power or shatter her illusions, leaving her to grapple with the harsh realities of her choices. Picture Vanessa, the once poised real estate mogul known for sealing multi-million-dollar deals and glittering high-rises, now teetering on the edge of moral decay, all fueled by a passion that blinds her to the dangers ahead. Joey, the enigmatic kingpin with a reputation for ruthless decisions forged in backroom deals and midnight escapes, might see her plea as a clever asset or a reckless liability that could unravel his carefully constructed web of influence. If his answer falls short of her dreams, envision Vanessa's fiery temper erupting in a storm of accusations and ultimatums, perhaps even storming out into the rainy streets, her designer heels clicking against the pavement as she contemplates alliances with Joey's rivals. Their partnership has already ventured into treacherous waters with that elaborate money laundering operation involving offshore accounts and shell companies disguised as luxury property flips, but elevating her to co-leader in his organized crime syndicate? That's a leap that could expose them both to federal scrutiny or internal betrayals from Joey's loyal but suspicious inner circle. Has love truly addled Vanessa's sharp mind, turning a savvy businesswoman into a willing accomplice in a life of constant peril? Or is this her calculated bid for survival in a world where vulnerability means extinction? Fans have long speculated on her backstory, a privileged upbringing shattered by a family scandal that left her hungry for control, making this response not just a plot pivot, but a defining arc in her character's descent or potential redemption. Shifting scenes to the opulent lobbies and hidden corridors of the elite Grand Plaza Hotel, the simmering feud between Nicole Richardson and Leslie Thomas reignites with explosive force on the October 22nd episode, setting off a chain of emotional reckonings that culminate dramatically by Thursday. Recall the heart-pounding near-reunion on October 17th, when Nicole, her heart pounding with long-suppressed longing, stepped into Ted Richardson's suite, the air thick with unresolved tension from their fractured marriage. Just as their hands brushed and whispers turned intimate, chaos erupted. Leslie, lurking like a vengeful specter in the dim hallway shadows, yanked the fire alarm, sirens blaring and forcing an abrupt evacuation that left Nicole humiliated and Ted questioning loyalties. This calculated sabotage, born from Leslie's obsessive grudge stemming from a past affair that cost her a promotion in the Richardson family empire, hints at an upcoming taunt where she corners Nicole in a crowded elevator, smirking as she recounts every detail of that interrupted night with venomous precision. The clash that follows isn't mere bickering, it's a verbal battlefield where old wounds reopen, with Nicole defending her right to reclaim her life and Leslie hurling barbs about betrayal and weakness, perhaps even revealing a pilfered photo from Ted's phone as ammunition. This confrontation spirals so intensely that it propels Nicole straight to Anita Dupree's doorstep, her voice breaking as she offers a tearful apology for past slights, maybe tied to a forgotten promise during a charity gala where Anita supported Nicole through a public scandal. Anita, the wise matriarch with her own history of navigating Richardson family dramas through quiet diplomacy and hidden agendas, could respond with forgiveness laced with warnings, urging Nicole to fortify her resolve against manipulators like Leslie. Viewers might ponder if this apology mends a crucial alliance or unearths deeper secrets, such as Anita's undisclosed ties to Ted's business ventures that could sway the power dynamics. The ripple effects promise to deepen the show's exploration of forgiveness versus vengeance, with Nicole's vulnerability contrasting Leslie's cunning, potentially leading to alliances that reshape the social hierarchy among the elite. In a fresh wave of youthful intrigue lighting up the neon-lit vibes of Uptown Nightclub, the debut of Isaiah Hawthorne on Thursday, October 23rd, injects sizzling chemistry and budding rivalries into the mix, particularly as he locks eyes with Eva Thomas amid pulsing beats and swirling lights. Jacob Hawthorne's younger sibling, Isaiah, a charismatic newcomer with a roguish grin, tattooed arms hinting at a rebellious past, and a backstory of street-smart survival after being ousted from their family's conservative estate, arrives not as a mere cameo but as a catalyst for romantic upheaval. Their encounter unfolds like a scene from a forbidden romance novel. Eva, still nursing the sting of her rocky history with Tomas Navarro, sips a vibrant cocktail at the bar when Isaiah approaches, his easy banter and magnetic confidence drawing her into a flirtatious dance that leaves onlookers breathless. Spoilers tease that this spark ignites into a full-fledged love interest for Eva, with stolen glances evolving into late-night texts and secret meetups in hidden speakeasies, challenging her to confront the monotony of her current entanglements. Tomas, the brooding artist type with a jealous streak amplified by his own insecurities from a childhood overshadowed by the Hawthorne brothers' fame, won't take this lightly. Imagine his face darkening as he spots them across the club, leading to a heated confrontation where accusations fly about trust and wandering affections. Adding layers to the drama, Catherine, Kat Richardson, Jacob's steady girlfriend, a poised socialite with a hidden wild side from her days backpacking through Europe, watches the jealousy unfold with a mix of amusement and intrigue. Will she dismiss Tomas's possessiveness as overblown, drawing parallels to her own possessive moments with Jacob during their whirlwind courtship at a beachside festival? Or could Kat find herself inexplicably pulled toward Isaiah's free-spirited allure, perhaps sharing a charged conversation about art, an ambition that blurs lines and tests loyalties? This introduction not only expands the Hawthorne family lore, revealing Isaiah's hidden talent for underground music production that could intersect with Eva's budding career in event planning, but also weaves a tapestry of envy, desire, and self-discovery that keeps the younger ensemble on the edge of chaos. As these threads intertwine, Beyond the Gates masterfully balances heartfelt connections with the thrill of potential heartbreak, ensuring Thursday's episode leaves audiences craving the fallout. Next, in the upscale gated community of Fairmont Crest, where Maryland's wealthiest families reside behind pristine gates and manicured lawns, darkness has descended upon one of the Dupree family's own. Chelsea Hamilton, the youngest daughter of the prominent family, finds herself trapped in a nightmare that will forever alter the course of her life, and test the moral boundaries of those who love her most. Captivity and terror. The ordeal began when Allison Bailey, a woman whose obsession with Chelsea had spiraled beyond reason, kidnapped the young social media influencer and held her captive in an undisclosed location. What started as a complex relationship, Chelsea had once explored a connection with Allison and her husband Craig, transformed into a fatal attraction that would consume them both. Chained and imprisoned, Chelsea endured days of psychological torment as Allison's delusions deepened. The captor believed that if she could just keep Chelsea long enough, the influencer would finally reciprocate her feelings. Allison's grip on reality had completely shattered, and her declarations of love became increasingly unhinged. For Chelsea, every hour brought fresh waves of terror. She was isolated from her family, from her mother Dani, her sister Naomi, her grandfather Vernon, and everyone in the Dupree family who had launched a desperate search to find her. The walls closed in, and Allison's presence became more suffocating with each passing moment. A desperate act of survival. Then came the night that would change everything. Chelsea, summoning reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed, managed to break free from her restraints. The chains that had bound her for days finally gave way, clattering to the floor in the dim basement where she'd been held. Freedom was within reach, but Allison stood between Chelsea and the door. A confrontation erupted. Allison, realizing her captive was escaping, lunged forward with rage and desperation. "If I can't have you, no one can!" she screamed, grabbing for Chelsea with violent intent. The two women struggled, crashing against furniture, knocking over objects in the chaos. In the midst of the violent struggle, Chelsea's hand found a hammer lying nearby, perhaps a tool Allison had used during Chelsea's imprisonment. Acting purely on instinct, driven by primal self-defense, Chelsea swung the weapon. The sound of impact echoed through the room. Allison's body crumpled to the floor, blood pooling around her head. The life drained from her eyes as Chelsea stood frozen, the hammer still gripped in her trembling hands. Silence descended, the terrible, suffocating silence of death. The cover-up. Chelsea stared at Allison's lifeless body, her mind racing through 1,000 thoughts at once. She had killed someone. Yes, it was self-defense. Allison had been her captor, her tormentor, the woman who had stolen days of her life. But would anyone believe her? Would the evidence support her story? Or would she be seen as a murderer? Panic set in. The young woman who had once commanded thousands of followers on social media, who had lived her life in the spotlight of Fairmont Crest's elite society, now faced the darkest decision of her existence. In that moment, terror overrode reason. Chelsea couldn't face the police, couldn't face the questions, couldn't bear the thought of her family seeing her as a killer, even if she'd acted in self-defense. She made a choice that would haunt her forever. Working quickly, Chelsea began destroying the crime scene. She wiped down surfaces, moved furniture, scattered objects to obscure what had really happened. Then, in the most desperate act of all, she set fire to the building. Flames consumed the walls, the evidence, and Allison's body. Chelsea watched the inferno briefly before fleeing into the night, her heart pounding, her clothes stained with smoke and blood. By the time she arrived home, Chelsea had crafted her mask. She cleaned herself up, changed her clothes, and prepared to pretend that nothing had happened. When her family asked where she'd been, she would lie. When Madison asked if she was okay, she would smile and say yes. The truth would remain buried beneath the ashes of that burning building. The investigation begins. But secrets in Fairmont Crest have a way of surfacing, especially when Detective Jacob Hawthorne is on the case. Jacob, married to Chelsea's sister Naomi, had been part of the frantic search for Chelsea during her disappearance. His dedication to finding her had been fierce. She was family, after all. He had worked tirelessly alongside Kat Richardson and Madison Montgomery to track down leads, eventually discovering the location where Chelsea had been held. But by the time Jacob and the others arrived at the scene, they found only smoldering ruins and Allison's charred remains. The fire had destroyed much of the evidence, but not all of it. Jacob's trained detectives began picking up inconsistencies immediately. The fire pattern suggested accelerant had been used. This wasn't an accident. The positioning of Allison's body didn't match what one would expect from someone trapped in a fire. And most troubling of all, forensic evidence began pointing to a timeline that didn't align with Chelsea's account of events. Jacob followed the trail of evidence with growing dread. Fiber samples. DNA traces. Witness statements from neighbors who reported seeing someone fleeing the scene just before the fire started. Each piece of the puzzle led him to a conclusion he desperately didn't want to reach. His sister-in-law, his wife's beloved younger sister, might be responsible for Allison's death and the subsequent cover-up. A detective's moral crisis. The revelation tore Jacob apart. As a police officer, Jacob had devoted his career to upholding justice. He'd been raised by his father, Elon Hawthorne, the chief of police, who had instilled in him an unwavering commitment to the law. Jacob's reputation as a by-the-book detective was well established in Fairmont Crest. He was the man people trusted to do the right thing, no matter how difficult. But this was different. This wasn't some stranger or distant acquaintance. This was Chelsea, the young woman he'd seen grow up, the sister of his wife, a member of the powerful Dupree family that had welcomed him with open arms. Jacob found himself facing an impossible choice: arrest Chelsea for murder and watch his own family be destroyed, or hide the evidence and betray everything he believed in as a police officer. The weight of this decision crushed him. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. Every time he looked at Naomi, he saw the pain she'd already endured worrying about Chelsea during the kidnapping. How could he add to that suffering by arresting her sister? But how could he look at himself in the mirror if he allowed a killer, even one he loved, to walk free? Naomi noticed her husband's distress. "What's wrong?" she asked him one evening, concern etched across her face. "You've been different since Chelsea came home. Is it the investigation?" Jacob couldn't meet her eyes. "It's complicated," was all he could manage. The Dupree family, sensing something amiss, began to close ranks. Vernon and Anita, the family's patriarch and matriarch, had decades of experience protecting their own. They'd covered up secrets before, hidden scandals to preserve the family's standing in Fairmont Crest's elite society. If Chelsea needed protection, they would provide it, regardless of the cost. But Jacob's conscience wouldn't let him rest. He was a detective, a man of the law, and the evidence was undeniable. Madison's calculated move. While Jacob wrestled with his moral dilemma, another person had discovered Chelsea's terrible secret: Madison Montgomery. Madison, Chelsea's girlfriend and a doctor at Garland Memorial Hospital, had been there the night Chelsea returned from her ordeal. She noticed things others hadn't: the way Chelsea flinched at certain questions, the micro-expressions of guilt that flashed across her face, the inconsistencies in her story. Initially, Madison said nothing. She comforted Chelsea, held her during nightmares, and played the role of supportive partner. But Madison Montgomery was not who she appeared to be. Behind her professional demeanor and caring facade lurked a calculating mind that saw opportunity in Chelsea's vulnerability. One evening, Madison cornered Chelsea in private. "We need to talk," Madison said, her voice cold in a way Chelsea had never heard before. "I know what really happened with Allison." Chelsea's blood ran cold. "What are you talking about? Don't play games with me, Chelsea. I'm a doctor. I know what defensive wounds look like, and Allison didn't have any. I know what fire victims look like, and that's not what killed her. And I know you. I can read you like a book." Madison moved closer, her eyes hard. "You killed her. Maybe it was self-defense, maybe not. But you definitely set that fire to cover it up." Tears streamed down Chelsea's face. "Madison, please. Here's how this is going to work," Madison interrupted, her voice steady and businesslike. "You're going to give me half of your family's assets. The Duprees are worth millions, your grandfather's real estate empire, your mother's modeling legacy, all of it. I want my share, or I go to the police with everything I know." Chelsea stared at the woman she thought she loved, barely recognizing her. "You're blackmailing me?" "I'm securing my future," Madison replied with a cold smile. "Think of it as an investment in your freedom. You get to stay out of prison, and I get compensated for my silence. It's a fair trade." The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. Chelsea had opened her heart to Madison, had been vulnerable with her in ways she'd never been with anyone. And now that intimacy was being weaponized against her, twisted into a tool for extortion. "And if I refuse?" Chelsea whispered. Madison's expression hardened. "Then I make a phone call to Jacob. I'm sure your brother-in-law would be very interested in what I have to tell him. In fact, he's probably already suspicious. My testimony would be the final piece he needs to arrest you." Chelsea's world crumbled around her. She'd escaped from one captor only to fall into the clutches of another. Allison had wanted to possess her body and soul. Madison wanted to possess her family's wealth and legacy. Both women saw her not as a person but as an object to be controlled. A family torn apart. As the days passed, the tension in Fairmont Crest reached a breaking point. Jacob continued his investigation, each new piece of evidence tightening the noose around Chelsea. His partner, the legendary detective Marcel Malone, had noticed Jacob's strange behavior and began asking questions. How long could Jacob keep the truth hidden? And what would happen when, not if, the secret came out? Chelsea, meanwhile, was drowning. The trauma of her kidnapping, the horror of killing Allison, and now Madison's blackmail demands created a perfect storm of psychological torment. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. Her social media presence, once vibrant and engaging, went dark. Friends and family noticed the change but attributed it to post-traumatic stress from the kidnapping. Only Chelsea knew the real reason for her deterioration. She was living a lie, and that lie was consuming her from the inside out. The Dupree family, sensing their youngest member was in crisis, tried to help. Dani, Chelsea's mother, attempted countless times to get her daughter to open up. Vernon and Anita offered their support, their resources, their unconditional love. But Chelsea couldn't tell them the truth. How could she explain that she'd killed someone and then destroyed the evidence? And through it all, Madison's threats hung over her head like a guillotine blade, ready to drop at any moment. The reckoning ahead. Now, as October 2025 unfolds in Fairmont Crest, multiple forces are converging toward an inevitable confrontation. Jacob must decide whether to arrest his sister-in-law or become complicit in covering up a homicide. His marriage to Naomi hangs in the balance. If he arrests Chelsea, Naomi may never forgive him. But if he hides the evidence and it later comes to light, he'll lose his career, his reputation, and possibly his freedom. Madison continues to tighten her grip on Chelsea, escalating her demands for a share of the Dupree family fortune. Her mask has completely fallen away, revealing a manipulative opportunist who saw Chelsea's vulnerability as a path to wealth. But blackmailers often overplay their hand. Will Madison push too far and expose herself? And Chelsea herself stands at a crossroads. She can continue living the lie, paying Madison's extortion, and watching Jacob suffer under the weight of his knowledge. Or she can come forward, confess what really happened, and hope that the truth, that she acted in self-defense against her kidnapper, will set her free. But that truth comes with risks, legal consequences, public scandal, and the destruction of her family's carefully maintained reputation in Fairmont Crest's elite society. The Dupree family, pillars of Fairmont Crest's wealthy black community, may face their greatest crisis yet. They've weathered scandals before: Martin Richardson's covered-up secret, Ted and Nicole's marital troubles, the various schemes and betrayals that plague any powerful family. But Chelsea's situation is different. This isn't just scandal, it's potential criminal liability that could bring down not just one family member but multiple people who knew and said nothing.